All right, guys. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Family First Live Get to 20K call with the SkyPoint agency. Coming out of convention, things are things are going so hot right now. I'm very, very blessed to be able to interview one of my good friends, Todd Hausberger. I had a chance to meet him in in Sarasota a few months back, and we got a chance to play poker and all that good stuff, hang out, pick his brain. So I wanted to give you guys a little idea of who Todd is, why he's such a stud in our business. He's been in the industry for 18 years before he found Family First Life. And the other thing too is Todd writes 50 grand a month, like almost every month. Like in the last 4 months, he's issued over 200K. Not a bad gig, right? So, Todd, you there with us, buddy?
Yeah, man. Hey, dude. Thanks for having me on. I'm humbled and honored to be on this with you, man. You guys are crushing it. So I'm glad to be able to give back in any way that I can.
Dude, thank you so much taking time out your day and sharing some knowledge with us. Let's get started, man. How did you find Family First Life? I know you worked with a few of the guys you worked with, but like, how did you find us? What were your initial thoughts when you decided to work with us? Like, please share that with us.
Yeah. So my buddy Chris Schiavo sent me the it's funny now, right? The overview video where you got to type your stuff in, right? So and now looking back, I mean, I'm sure well, I know he did. I know he saw that, like I watched it like, 3, 4, 5, 6 different times because you have to keep typing it in, every
Right.
time you stop it and stuff. So he's like, dude, this guy's hot, man. He wants in. So so I watched it, and Eric was kind of on the DL. He wasn't out in the open yet, out of the closet yet, for working with Family First Life, and he's always kind of my go-to because I've known him for 17 years. So as soon as I'm done watching the video, I call up Eric and I'm like, "Hey man, tell me about this Family First Life gig." And he's like, "Dude, I've been over here for a couple months." I'm like, "What?"
Right.
I'm like, "You don't tell him, brother?" He's like, "Well, I've been kind of keeping it on the DL, for a little bit." Um, so then I really started diving in and digging, finding out more about the opportunity. And I even flew down to Dallas and interviewed with another company just to kind of do my due diligence, right? Just to make sure I was making the right choice, and just to kind of compare that other IMO. It took them about 6 years to get their agency over 500,000, and Dave within 6 months was already over 500,000. So I was like, yeah, I think I'll go in this direction. I don't have that time, to wait until I'm like 50, 55 years old before I can actually build up an agency. So
Right.
that's when I decided to come on over to Family First Life.
There you go, man. So, without dropping names and all that, like the company you used to work at, because we
Yep.
kind of know the backstory. Like, how did you used to generate business?
We used to knock on doors, man, residentially and business to business, selling cancer policies. So it was a tough
Wow.
gig, man. Yeah.
And like, how much did you sell there? Just ballpark. I'm curious.
Altogether, I think, and I had like a 4 year hiatus, but about 2.8 million, I think, altogether over there.
No leads, door to door was the only model you had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So, like, when you decided to actually put leads in play here at Family First Life, what did that do for your business?
Man, it was like a kid in a candy store, dude. From where we came from and then coming over here, I was like, holy smokes. I was like, this is so much easier
Right.
because there's like kind of an X factor in there, right? So like, yeah, I had maxed out at a 70% contract, which was one of the highest contracts over at that other company. And seeing that I could get all the way up to 145% contract over here, I mean, that was a no brainer. But the X factor I like to talk about is not realizing that. So like I would be lucky if I could get like 3 or 4 appointments in a day, right? And those were good days. So being able to come over here and to have 8+ appointments, on my run days, that X factor is really what's helped me, not just on the comp plan being able to double, but also triple my income because now I can see more people and I've got more at bats.
Right.
So yeah, higher comp and then more at bats. I mean, it's just, dude, it's a home run, man.
So, I'm just curious because, wow, like at that previous company, what was like a normal day? Like, you just get in your car and start canvassing, literally?
Yeah. Yeah, so we started off knocking on doors and like literally like drawing out pre-approach maps, which is like of a neighborhood where the houses are, who you spoke with, their names and stuff. So there was a little bit of a method to the madness, I guess.
Todd, are you there? Did I lose you?
Uh,
Nope.
is
Whoa,
going off. Yeah,
there you
can you
go.
hear me?
Perfect. Yep. Yes, sir.
Sorry about that. Then he kind of graduated into mainly working referrals and then also doing some B2B. So towards the end, I was like involved with the chamber and BNI, which is Business Networking
Right.
International, and I was just trying to churn up as much business as I can through like small businesses, counties, cities, school districts, all that type of stuff.
Dude, and I can only imagine how tough that is. And see, I was interviewing our top producer panel in Phoenix, and I was telling some folks, like, especially the folks that just started here at Family First Life, this is the only place they've ever worked. It's like they don't understand how spoiled they are because, like, other people, like, kind of like you said, you're like, dude, I was in the industry for like 18 years. The max comp I had was a 70, right?
Yeah.
Sold over $2.8 million worth of business, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, we offer agents 90 at the lowest, which most people don't. Not only that, it's like we have leads, so you don't have to canvas, right? Like that's crazy. And they don't
Yeah.
understand the vehicle that they have in hand. And I feel like they take advantage of it, which is why it blows my mind how some folks come in here and in like 90 days, they'll still not write over 20 grand. Folks like
Yeah.
yourself and the guys you work with, they all come in and write 50, 60 grand because it's like, dude, they knew where they came from and they knew how bad it was. So like they won't take advantage of this.
Yeah,
Right.
totally, man. I was blessed and honored to have a couple speaking parts in Kansas City convention, and that's one of the things that I hit on. I was like, you have no idea like how good you all have it over here. Like if I
Right.
could put you back in my situation, I mean, most of you guys, because most people actually didn't make it, so most of y'all wouldn't make it over there, that's for sure. But just if you realize the opportunity that you have over here and that you lucked out, I mean, you basically won the lottery by being able to this being your first stop because you don't have to go through all the pain and misery
Right.
and and suffering at the other company, or other
That's
companies, I guess would be a better way to put it.
right. So let's dive in. I mean, so like you get started, you work with Eric, you work with Dave, you work with Chris. I mean,
Yep.
when they say, hey man, we got to get you into, buying leads, down leads, like how resistant were you into that? Or were you kind of like, dude, I'm all in, like whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do.
Yeah, I'm an all-in type of guy, so I'd already had the validation from like I've known Dave for 17 years, I've known Eric for 17 years, I've known Chris for 17 years. So these aren't just people that I just met, on the street, right?
Right.
And so I was talking to Dave. I was like, "Hey man, how much should I invest?" He's like, "Let's just start off with like $1,000." Like, dude, I'm getting like 15,000 from the other company every month, residuals. I was like, just tell me how much I need to spend. He's like, all right, do 1,500. So that's what I did my first week, and that 1,500 resulted in 15,800 my first week.
Wow. All right, cool. So like, how have you been able to scale from that to where you are right now? Is your lead bill roughly 1,500 a week, 2,000 a week? What are you doing in terms of leads?
I'd say it's anywhere between 1,500 to 2,500. Obviously, the instant internet leads has definitely changed the game and also changed the budget where you're able to get a lot more leads for a lot less.
Right.
So that's been a huge game changer. Um, my all-time favorite leads, which were in place, went away, and then they came back, but now they're not in Nashville. So there's only two places that they're not located, and one of the places in Nashville. So I'm super bummed about that again. But that was game time mortgage protection leads.
Gotcha.
I would buy 15 on Monday and 15 on Thursday. So I'd spend about 1,000 on Monday and about 1,000 on Thursday. And those were my, like when I did 28,800 in a week, I was just running those. And I think pretty much all the other weeks I did over 20,000 a week. It was running those, and then I would fill in with instant internet leads and age mortgage protection leads. I love those as well. And then also the gold and silver call-in leads. Those are
So
great as well.
you're not using direct mail mortgage at all.
I am, but my most of my counties were already blocked out and stuff. So I mean, I get a very, very, very slow trickle
Right.
on the mortgage protection mailers, and then also on the final expense mailers. So I mean,
Gotcha.
I don't even get like, I mean, if I'm lucky, I get like one or two a week, if that.
Wow.
There's some weeks that I don't even get any at all. So yeah, I'm not, but I'm not too upset about that. They're not my favorite anyway.
Right. Which is so crazy because it's like everybody we talk to, or most people that come, they're like, I want the mortgage protection lead. I want the A lead. And you're like, dude, I write 20, 30 grand a week using Instance, Facebook, Final Expense, Facebook mortgage. It's like, that's just so unheard of because most people are so used to paying the 60 to $80 per the direct mail mortgage, right? So
Yeah.
so you said instance were game changers, why is it a game changer? I mean, like, I'm pretty sure you deal with the same objections that most people deal with on the phone that we have here. Like, how do you overcome the, like, I already got it taken care of? Like, what do you say to folks that say stuff like that to you?
Yeah, I mean, pretty standard stuff that everybody says. Say, perfect. That's exactly why I'm calling you. Is to sit down with you real quick and just kind of review with you to make sure that you really got put in the best possible spot. Are you going to be around after 6 o'clock today, where I can, get you that information, do a quick review with you? So just kind of deflecting, redirecting basically, because we're not trying to sell them over the phone. We're just trying to find out when they're going to be home and when we can get in front of them.
Right. Like Sean says, man, the phone is just an appointment, dude. All we're
Yep,
trying to do is get in the home because that's where the sales takes place, right? So,
exactly.
what do you like? How many appointments do you run a week?
So I've had a little bit of a transitional period here because I have been going into more recruiting. So I've had my assistant setting a lot more appointments for me. And I thought I was pretty bad on the phones, but she's getting there, with how good she's getting on the phones and stuff like that. But it's a process, right? We all start off in a certain place, and I started off exactly where she was. So she's getting up to the place to where I was before with how many appointments she's able to set and the quality of appointments that she sets and stuff. And then I'll hop on the phones Monday and Thursday and help fill in kind of the gaps. But I'm shooting for 32 plus appointments every single week.
How often do you actually get to 32, you think?
When I was doing my appointments myself, I was getting to 28 to 32 pretty regularly.
Gotcha.
I mean that's the secret to success, right? The more at bats you have, I mean, the more times you're going to get on base.
Right.
So she's fallen a little bit under those numbers, but she's getting back up to the 28 to 30 a week and stuff.
There you go. Out of the 30 that you book, how many do you think you sit on, you think?
Out of the 30, because the show ratio for both of us has never been super great. I'd say maybe 20 to 24, maybe 24 being the absolute best.
Right. So and then out of the 20, how many are you closing?
If I'm sitting down with them, I'm closing a good chunk. So I'd say 15 or so.
Gotcha. And see, that's where, like the numbers from corporate that we've always talked about, and this is what we preach in our agency, is like, do 30 appointments booked, 20 appointments sat, you'll close at least 10. Like half the people are just going to buy no matter what it is, right? And it's like, and obviously if you have skills and, you've been in the industry for a little bit, or you've been in sales for a little bit, like that number can increase. I mean, that's all it really is. It's just a numbers game.
Yep.
It's really a math equation. And that's why for me, it doesn't make any sense to me when people go, I won't invest 1,000, 1,500, 2,500, whatever a week in leads, because they don't get as many as bats. And then they look at your results versus theirs and they get mad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it's because Todd invests way more than you do.
Yeah. It blows my mind. And it's funny because, talking to a lot of these new agents, it's like a light bulb. It's like, yeah, they've been telling me for 6 to 12 months to buy more leads. And all of a sudden I started buying more leads, and then I started hitting 10,000 plus in a week. It's like, yes, that's why we keep telling you over and over and over again to invest more into your business, because that's where the ROI is at. And it's like, I think the analogy that Andrew always uses, or maybe Grady, I can't remember, but if you open up a pizza joint, and you don't do any marketing or any advertising, I mean, you'll shut the doors within a couple months, probably, depending on how much capital you have. So you have to market, you have to advertise to get people in the door, and then it'll grow exponentially from there. But you have to continue to market, and you have to continue to advertise. So it's just a marketing and advertising budget. That's all it is.
Right. So, so out of the 15 you sell, what do you think your average AP is for the sale, for the week? What are you doing on normal?
I'd say for mortgage protection, probably upwards of about 150 or so. And then on final expense, probably roughly about 100 or so.
Gotcha. And see, that's where people don't understand. They go, oh man, well, Todd sells 28 grand in a week. That means he's selling $400 or $500 a month. And it's like, dude, we get those occasionally. But most of the time, they're about 100, 150 bucks. That's the sweet spot.
I think I've had one, maybe three that are in between the $300 to $400 range. So
Three
for the
in a month or three since you started?
no, total. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I haven't had a bunch of those whales. Only yeah, less than five. So
Right. So cool, man. So you're closing a lot of people that you're sitting down with. So like you're saying you're sitting down with 20, you'll close about 15 of them at least. What are you doing in the in-home?
I took so I've got a daily agenda that I kind of put together, and it's basically just like an outline of the steps that I follow. And I still kind of use it, which is kind of funny because I mean I really don't need it anymore, but it's kind of like my blankie, it's my safety net. Just like with using the script, like I don't really need to use the script all that much anymore on the phones, but still it's kind of like my safety blankie and stuff. But I'm used to sitting in people's homes already, and I know how to structure it. So like sitting at the kitchen table, telling them to turn off the TV. If somebody calls, tell them you call them back. I mean, just really taking control once you get in there. And I did a similar soft close with the other company that I was with the, hey, pick which ones make the most sense to you. With the other ones, pick which ones. With us, obviously, it's pick the one that makes the most sense to you. So I
Right.
love that soft close where you're not like hard closing them like this is the one you got to get for $400 a month. They're like, well, I can only afford 100, that type of deal. So I
Right.
like giving them a couple of different options, and then they feel like they're in control when they pick whichever option. Even though it's best of both worlds because whatever option they pick is good with us.
Right. So are you a three options guy? Is that what you're basically saying? You write a few
Totally.
different options, let them pick them out. Right. Cause
Yeah.
that's one of the debates that we have, not a debate, but it's like we go back and forth in theory, I guess you could say. Some people go, hey, I only show them one, I show them max and I drop them down, right? Top down selling. I've never
Yep.
been that guy. I don't feel like I have. And I've always been the three options guy, and it's worked really, really well for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah. Because
so
I've tried both with the other company that I was at, and it just felt like to me, and I'm sure like most of it was like how I was setting it up and how I was coming off. But for me, it just felt like it was a hard close, and I've never been like a hard closer. And
mhm,
again, if you give them three options, even though it's a false sense of, control for them, they feel like they're in control and they're like, well, I wasn't sold. I picked that one,
right.
even though you're giving them three options and it's a win-win no matter what they pick, but they feel like, because everybody likes to buy, but no one likes to be sold. Right. So,
Amen.
if they feel like that they're making the decision, then I think it's a little bit of an easier transition and close.
Correct. One of our guys basically wanted to ask, he said, you said you carry an outline, a safety blankie with you in the home.
Yeah.
What does that outline consist of? What are you trying to hit? What do you see in that outline? Are you asking specific questions? What does it sound like, your outline?
Yeah. There's like trial closes that are tied in there, and basically I watched a presentation that Grady did with one of his guys in his office. It was like I think 10 or 12 minutes, and they put it out a couple months ago. And basically I just went through and like play pause, and wrote down everything that he covered, all the main points and all the topics that he had and stuff. So like most people, I kind of explain to them like, hey, why am I here? Why did you fill it out? Why is this important to you? That type of a deal. I'm independent, non-captive. I used to be with a captive agency, so I've got tons of options I can show you now. And then the trial close that I say is, hey, I'm always looking to accomplish three things with you today, Stephen. Number one is finding something that's affordable for you. Two, finding something that that you're comfortable with, and three, finding something you qualify for. If I can show you something that's affordable, you're comfortable with, you can qualify for, does that sound like something you'd like to put in place today? So kind of getting the objection out of the way, because I don't want to get all the way to the end and be like, well, I didn't know I had to do something today. It's like, hey, you already said, look, we already accomplished these three things, so you
Right.
already committed to this. And then going through the process, I'm going to spend 2 minutes on, medical, 2 minutes on financial, 5 minutes on going over a couple of different options. And here's what they're going to do. They're going to look you up and down, check everything except for your credit. And then at the end, they're going to come back and they're going to let us know whether or not we're actually able to fill out an application and submit an application to them. And you're going to fall into two categories. One, you're either going to qualify for it, or two, you're not going to qualify for it. But if you don't qualify for it, that's okay. Because remember, I'm non-captive, independent, and I can show you tons of different options. So we'll find something that will work for you.
We're just going to clip that and send that all to brand new agents. Like whatever you just said, we're just going to send that to brand new agents. That was money. And what's funny, Todd, is like all top producers say something along those lines. They say it in like different orders, But they all
Yep.
say the same thing. Hey, this is what we're going to do today. We're going to find something that's affordable, comfortable, and, qualify for it, right? Like Trade uses that all the time. Like everybody says almost the same thing. And it's like, it just blows my mind because we have so many agents that come into our industry or let alone in our line of work. And they go, well, I'm going to do it on my own. And
Yep.
I'm like, it's kind of like what I said at our training in Phoenix. I'm like, dude, we have a system that's created 59 Hall of Fame producers. Why would you change anything different? Right.
Exactly.
I'm a big copycat guy,
Oh, me too, man. I'm not creative at all. So, like, if you put me down with like a blank sheet of paper and a pen and be like, "Hey, come up with a system," I'll be like, "Yeah, that's not gonna happen." But if they're like, "Hey, here's the system we have," and I'll be like, "Oh, I like that. I'll tweak this a little bit, and I'll add my little flair in here, my style over here."
Mhm.
But at the end, it's just gonna be the same as everybody else's. It's just got some different, all the general stuff and all the main points of an outline is basically what everybody else does anyway. It's all copied and stolen and all that jazz.
Right. So, talk to us about how long are you in the home usually? App in hand. If you're closing a family, app in hand, how long are you usually in the home?
That obviously can depend, right? So with final expense, typically about 45 minutes, unless we have to run through a couple different carriers, which
Hmm.
happens. So obviously that extends the time. And then I'd say with mortgage protection, it's a little bit longer because you're building up the sale a little bit more. So probably maybe about an hour and a half if I'm doing husband wife, and then of course if you have to run through a couple of different carriers, obviously you can go
Right.
longer on that time as well. So
Are you booking like when you're booking your calendar? Are you going, every hour and a half, every 2 hours? Like, what are you putting in your calendar to set, 7 to 10 appointments a day?
I was doing every hour and then every hour and a half for mortgage protection, but since I've got so many of my appointments that either no show me or porch me, I typically end up just doing every hour on the hour
Right.
because I just know that there's going to be a good chunk of them, right? And I'd say probably anywhere between 25 to 50% on a day that maybe no show me or porch me. And obviously some days, I mean, you sit down with everybody, and then some days, you don't sit down with hardly anybody, So it's just
Right.
it's just a numbers game.
And see, that was big for me too, because I run an hour 15 minutes. That's just my
Yeah.
comfort zone.
Yep.
And what happened was like when I was running an hour and a half or 2 hours, it's like you get no showed twice. You're waiting in McDonald's parking lot for quite a long time for your next
Hmm.
appointment, right? Or you're supposed to be door knocking or making phone calls, but it's like it just feels so unproductive because you have nothing to do. So for me, it's like
Totally.
I'd rather run hour 15 and just be pushed back to back. And it's like I saw the first one, I took an hour and a half, I'm 15 minutes late, I'm fine. That one no shows, I'm on time for the next one. It's like
Yep.
the calendar just works that way for me, and I'm pretty sure for you with every hour on the hour. So, um,
Yeah, that's the best system.
let me ask you this question. So, like, you say that you use someone to help you make, like your assistant, she helps you to make dials too. Because we kind of talked about this when we were on that trip.
Yep.
You were dialing for yourself, and then you kind of had someone help you out too, but it's not like they dial solely by themselves because you jump in and fill in the gaps as well. um, a lot of new agents, they have avoidance behavior because the phone sucks flat out.
Yep. Yeah.
So like, how did you overcome that when you started? Because almost everybody feels like they want to get a dialer, but they shouldn't because they can't afford it necessarily too.
Yeah.
Right. So how did you dial and then find someone to help you dial?
Um, so it was kind of just a natural progression for I think the first 3 to 4 months or so. I mean, I was doing all the dials on my own. But as my agency was continuing to grow and multiply and everything like that, like I was getting pulled in a lot of different directions. So probably I hired on my assistant part time, then I moved her to full time. And when she was part time and full time at the beginning, all she was doing was handling carrier stuff, right?
Hmm.
Because I can't stand having to do those and client calls and thank you cards and all that jazz.
Right.
So she was doing all the stuff that I just don't like to do. And then I noticed that she had a lot of free time when I brought her over full time. So I was like, well, let's also add this into the mix as well,
Right.
which is good because I'm the full time recruiter, and then I just run sales appointments and stuff. So we've got kind of a good system in place, and she is getting better and getting better and getting better as time moves forward.
Right. That's awesome, man. Because I've always told people like we get paid really well to dial, run appointments, and recruit people. We don't get
Yep.
paid really well to sit on the phone with America for 35 minutes and wait for a Mutual of
Yeah.
Omaha for an hour or call Athene, and that's another 25-minute conversation. Like our time is valuable, right?
Yep.
And that's where like having staff is important. And speaking about staff, like how quick did it take for you to actually hire your first staff, you think?
Really fast because I could not stand doing the carrier calls. Like, I mean, yeah, to the point I was like, Dave, I was like, man, how do you do this, man? I was like, I'm writing at such a high level, I can't keep up with all the carriers that I need to contact and get this form signed and this filled out. I was like, dude, it's like cutting in about production. It's like hire staff, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what I did.
Right.
Hired somebody really quickly, and like almost instantaneously, it was like this big weight lifted off my chest. You know, I was like, now I just get to sell and help people. Thank you,
Right.
thank you.
And that's what, like, kind of like we talked about. It's like that's what we get paid really, really well to do. And I'm like, so many people are scared to pull that trigger because number one, they've never been an employer. So they don't know
Yep.
what it's like to have employees. But the second
Yeah.
thing too is like the objection we normally hear is like, well, what do I make them do? Right. So like when you first hired her on, like besides calling carriers, were there anything other things that you had her do, like post ads for you or, call some
No,
resumes?
no, no. I've never. She does have her license now. My wife has her license, and she's starting to help out on some of the phones and stuff too. Then my wife's going to help out on some of the social media stuff. And eventually, I'm going to have both of them start to help me out on some recruiting stuff. But she started off just doing the carrier calls, calling the clients right when I sign them up, calling them when their policies get mailed out to them, and then also sending out the thank you cards. So that was her, you know, that was the only that's all she had to do, right? That was her what made up her job description. And then I just added in, doing setting appointments for me and stuff as well as I noticed that she's got a lot of free time.
And see, that's money. Because like a persistency issue that we have is, we write the business and it doesn't retain because after that initial first sale, we don't have a follow-up. How
Yeah.
drastic has that been for your persistency in terms of having, like you said, your assistant call, send a thank you card, let them know the policy's coming out, getting drafted, all that stuff? Like how big has that been for you? Like, do you notice a difference in your persistency?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because I mean, I was trying to do that as well, right? And I was falling behind the eight ball and having to take a lot of calls from the clients. So that was also taking me out of the field and doing the carrier calls. I mean, it was just it's just not what I like to do, And
Mhm.
also what I found is when like if they call, if they're upset, I mean, if you've got a buffer in between you and whatever they might be upset for, because the carriers aren't perfect, neither are we. So, but they're going to talk to your assistant in a lot different manner, and then your assistant can kind of like smooth things over for you a little bit, and then if you need to put that call out, then you can put that call out.
Right.
But it just takes. I mean, all you need is really like half a sale a week to be able to pay for your assistant. I pay her $500 a week. There are some bonuses that I pay in now that she schedules some of my appointments and stuff like that. But I mean, if there's anybody on this call that doesn't have an assistant yet, trust me, do it, and you'll see your sales increase tremendously because that's one of the things that's probably holding you back.
Right. Right. Dude, I think you hit everything, man. I wanted to ask you, and this is, before we open up the call for other, new agents to be able to ask you anything. If you were to hire, I mean, you're hiring a lot of people right now. So if you were to hire yourself right now and go, hey, I can shorten your learning curve, right? Because even though you went fast, but like knowing what you know now, if you can even shorten the learning curve you had back then, what would you tell yourself? Like, hey, these are the things you need to do to go here quicker.
Yeah, I would right when I got hired on, I would have hired an assistant day one. So that's one thing for sure. And then I mean that's probably it because I mean it, like where I was before, I was like a smoldering fire, right? And then
Mhm.
you put us into the FFL system. It's like pouring gasoline on that smoldering fire where it just explodes. I mean, I was like literally like a kid in a candy store, man. I didn't realize how unhappy I was and how bad it was over there until coming over here, and I was like, oh, my
Right.
eyes were completely open. I was like, this is amazing. Holy smokes. So when people are like, how are you hitting all these high numbers? It's just, again, like what we talked about at the beginning, it's just like you guys have no idea where we came from, and how much, oh gosh, how bad it was over there. It was just,
Mhm.
it was a tough gig, man. But yeah,
Cool, man. Well, hey, thanks for sharing. For anybody on the attendees list, if you have a question, feel free to type it out in the chat. I'll ask the question for you to Todd. I mean, Todd's a stud, so anything regarding building or writing, whatever you would like, feel free to shoot. Because if not, I'm just going to shoot questions at him the whole time, and I don't, we see the business in completely different ways. So, yeah, let's see. Is there any questions? One new message. Thank you for the tip. Okay, what do your thank you cards look like, or what do they say on there?
I mean, it's just basic and simple. I believe because I don't write the thank you cards anymore, and I haven't even checked to see what she's writing. But I mean, I gave her simple instructions, so I'm sure she's very proficient at what she's doing. So just hey, thank you for your business. Let us know if you need anything, name, number, and all that stuff. So I mean, I gave her like a generic outline, so I'm guessing she's probably still using the same. So
there you go. There you go. Brandon Kitchings asked, what would you say to new agents that feel the need that they need to wait until they produce at a high level before they start hiring?
Yeah, that is a little frustrating, right? That you hear that over and over and over again. It's like, don't we have enough proof? I mean,
Right.
look at everything on our Facebook. Look at everything in your Slack feed. I mean, what are you waiting for? I mean, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be you that's getting out there and crushing it. I mean, you can show like hundreds of other people that are crushing it, and be like, hey, I'm on track, or this is a path that I'm on, or I'm heading in the right direction, blah blah blah. So, I mean, if you're waiting until you have that, 40, 50, $60,000 month, then you're just costing yourself a ton of money. Is really what it equates to.
And then the worst part about that is like Sean always says this, and I believe him because some of our bigger agencies have came because they didn't wait on
Yeah.
becoming a high producer first. And I say that I'm like, well, what if you suck at selling insurance but your friends don't?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like you get to play
Totally.
God and don't give them the opportunity because you suck. Like, there's a lot of people that we've hired, man. They came out the gates like Bruce Williams came from his friend that came from a Craigslist ad that came from a guy that didn't write very much insurance. And dude, that guy wrote 30 grand his first month. Like, imagine if all these guys would have waited because none of them have even hit 20 and it's been like a year.
Yeah.
So it's like, imagine if they actually waited, we wouldn't have that big of an agency. Same thing with Brandon. The same thing with a lot of guys that we work with. So great question, Brandon. What do you say, Todd? How do you pique interest when you get into recruiting?
Man, it kind of goes back to what I've been talking about on the sales side. It's the same thing on the building side as well. Like, so in 17 years with the other company, the most agents I ever had at one time was 12, and the most we ever did in a year was 600,000. So
For
over
the
a
year,
year,
like combined.
yeah, that's for a year. That was my best year ever. So right now we're already at 27 writing agents in January at 187. So if we didn't improve, that would be 2.4 million or so, for the end of the year. But we're
Wow.
growing at about 50,000 every month,
Mm-hmm.
and people are just like, what's different with you? What's gotten into you? They can just hear it in my voice, like how jacked up I am and how excited I am, because it was so difficult to recruit people into knocking on doors selling cancer insurance at a 30% comp, because that's where we started everybody, right? So
Wow.
I mean, I was making a 40% spread off of them. I was making more than they were making off of their sales, because they were only on 30%. So I mean, most people never even made it, and I fast tracked people to get them to a 40 and 50% as quickly as possible. But almost nobody made it to the 40 or 50%. They quit before then.
Right.
So the business model over there was, you're going to make most of your money off of the quitters, because you then assume their residual income,
Mm-hmm.
than what you're going to make off of your rock stars and stuff. So it's just a completely different business model. And coming over here, man, I've been preaching the gospel to anybody that will listen. I mean, like I'm all over the place, like trying to pull people into the business, because I know what it's like out there, and like what an amazing opportunity that we have over here.
Right. Um, Another question is, when you make carrier calls, can your assistant get most of those things done, or do they need to buzz you in when you answer the question?
Yeah, she does it all, man. I don't want to, unless it's like 100% necessary, which so far it hasn't been, because we've set it up to where she's my assistant. She's already got everything. She's got my writing numbers, agency numbers, all that jazz. And I believe, since I haven't been pulled on since I haven't been pulled in on any of them, I guess they're probably pretty used to that. That's
Right.
pretty standard for them. They know that people's assistants call in and stuff. So yeah, I haven't had to mess with any of it in months, and it's just been it's been so great.
Right.
I can't
And
I can't say enough about that. It's totally lifted a huge weight off my chest for sure.
I literally had a new agent yesterday. He came over and he was ordering supplies like folders,
Yeah,
brochures, and stuff like that, right? And we have so many companies. So I was like, hey, for
yeah,
with this company you're gonna ask for this, and with this company you're gonna ask for this, and I gave him like 5 companies, and I literally watched him do that, and it took him like an hour and a half, and I was like, if you're a 400K producer, like that would have cost you like 300-400 bucks.
yeah,
Like it
easily.
ain't worth it. Pay
Yeah,
someone 15 bucks an hour or 20 bucks an hour. Let them go do that. That's a $15 an hour task. You're not,
yeah,
as a top producer, like that's not work. I shouldn't say I'm below it, but I'm just saying we can hire it. Like we
yeah,
can hire
oh,
the weakness for that. So
for
um,
sure.
the other thing I wanted to ask you was this is from Anna. What is one piece of advice you can give someone that's just starting up?
Well, I mean, besides what we've already been talking about, um, just invest more in leads, get an assistant as soon as possible, and just see the value in yourself that you're worth it. Because yeah, I mean, we're not working at Walmart, we're not working at McDonald's, we're not making 7, 10, 15, or even 20 bucks an hour. We're not working at a factory. So like you were saying, I mean, like I don't even know how to order supplies. Like if I had to order supplies, I don't even know how, because that was one thing I knew I didn't want to do. So like when I hired her on, I was like, here's your task, figure it out. Cause I don't know where to go. So she
Right.
knows where to go now and I don't. So just all the stuff that I dislike, and it'll pay for itself instantaneously, even if you've got somebody part time, because they can take all the things off your plate that you dislike.
Right.
Or even if, like, let's just say you just love talking to the carriers. Well, I mean, your time is more valuable, and you have to see the value in your time, and I mean, you're worth easily, a couple $100 an hour. So that's just not that's not the right where you should be spending your time.
Perfect. Question from Travis. What was your vetting process for hiring assistants?
I got really lucky. So it's my sister-in-law that's my assistant, and my wife is like much smarter than me and better looking and good at everything, all that type of stuff. So I was like, hey, I need an assistant. I need one like ASAP. And she's like, hey, we should hire Cindy. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like she'd be perfect for this because like we've seen in her life like how structured, how organized she is. It's like, oh my gosh, this was like made for her. So I
Right.
mean, it was just like it was seamless, and she hit the ground running. Like, yes, there was some training, and this is what we expect, and this is what you need to do. But I mean, for the most part, she was just like, yeah, she was knocking out of the park from the get go.
And see, like to answer that question too, it's like um, I waited too long. I think I waited 2.5 years to hire my first
Jeez.
assistant. Yeah, terrible. Oh, so
That sounds
that's what I'm
like
going to share with
torture.
you is I was already writing 20, 30 grand a month. I don't know if I was writing
Yep.
40 at the time. I think I was only writing like 20, 30. And what
Yep.
happened was like everybody was like, you need an assistant, you need an assistant. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Like, I take them on full time, part time, how many hours? 10, 20, 40. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do with them. Right. I was like, and I always tell people, it's like, if you would have told me that I needed to hire someone to do social media at the beginning of the year last year, I would have laughed at you because I'm like, dude, I'm 30. I don't do social media. And it's like
Yeah.
now, like we get so many people that reach out to us that say, hey, I want to work with you because we saw something you posted. And I'm like, that's
Yep.
so crazy. Right. So,
Yep.
but I say that because in like last year, February 2020 was conference. We hired our first staff member in March. Surprise, surprise. In March, we went
Hmm.
VP.
Yep.
And then in April, we went from 150 to 240. We grew 90 grand in 1 month.
Jeez, man,
And then
that's
like
amazing.
we looked at our volume and like, one of the things that, top managers talk about is like, hey, regardless of 5 weeks or 4 weeks, the goal is to never go backwards. So like,
Yeah.
if you look at our trajectory from January all the way to December last year, we never had a month that went backwards. And I was like, is that me or is that the staff? Because there's a lot
Yeah.
of things I didn't do when we were
Yeah.
growing, and I think it's because she was taking a blunt of that, like a lot of it. Um, so yeah, man, hiring staff is a big deal. I would also say this is don't hire someone but like hire a person that like your friends, like a mutual friend, because then it's
Yeah.
not
We just got
very hard.
lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So
just got lucky with with Cindy and stuff. But yeah, typically it's not best to work with family or work with a direct friend because it can hurt the relationship along the way, you know?
Right. Right. So, Valerie Radican, I'm going to allow you to talk. So you can ask a question, Valerie, if you want to unmute yourself. Valerie, we can't hear you. I think your mic is still muted. She raised her hand. I don't know if she has a question.
She was raising the roof, man.
Right. So if not, I'm just going to lower it. Cool. All right. Jonathan Avila, what's up? What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for taking my question. Just a brief background. First month in insurance sales, no experience at all. Last month, issued 17K. I'm looking to double that this month. What would you do? What steps would you take to reach that goal?
Well, what's your lead budget?
Anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 a week.
Okay. Look at increasing that from 1,500 to 2,000. And then do you think that there's anybody that you could bring on part-time to help you out with carrier calls and client retention?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay. So those two things, because again, like I was straight out the gates, right? I was doing like 30, 40,000 a month. And when you get to that, like if you find calling the carriers and client retention a pain in the butt now, I mean, try to imagine once you double. I mean, like I was seriously like, I was super stressed out. I felt like, I was like, anxiety, I was like, oh, this is, how do you do this? And he's like, hire staff, man. That's what Dave said. And I was like, oh, yes. And since then, like, anxiety's off the table, stress is off the table, I'm like, it feels so much better, man.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah, of course.
Sweet. Yeah, and that part is so huge. And like, for example, like conference this past week, right? Like I was like, hey, Brittany, can you do me a favor? Book the hotel, book the rental cars, but it's like, find out where we're going to eat for dinner, like plan it for the entire, I'm like, dude, I don't want to deal with any of that. And it's like, they're amazing, and that's why it's like, it's one thing off your, right. It's like off your plate. You're just there to basically do what you need to do. So this is Gabriella. Gabriella, you there? You can unmute yourself. I don't know if your mic is muted. There you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, great. Thank you. Sorry. I just started, Steven is familiar with this, but what do you recommend to start with leads, or what are like the least expensive ones that you would recommend for me to start?
Instant internet leads. That's what I'm starting all my people off. So I've just onboarded 3 new people. Some are part-time, some are full-time, and they've all had about a $500 lead budget to get the ball rolling. So I would max out the instant internet leads, and then I would go to the new life internet leads in the 1 month, and then if I had to go to the 3 month, then I would do that. But I mean, they've all spent between, I think, roughly about $400 to $500, and my goal is always to get them 100 leads. To get them more at bats. So that's where I start my new people. And then after their first week, I tell them, hey, we need to bump that lead budget from 500 up into 1,000. And now we need to start getting you into more instant internet leads, spreading it out over the county. And then maybe even start to look at, depending on how they're doing, looking at some mortgage protection leads, and age mortgage protection leads and stuff as well.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, of course.
No problem. I don't think we have any other questions. Hey, Todd, man, thank you. Seriously, thank you. We appreciate you because I know you're on a run day right now because you look like you're about to run.
Of course.
He's gonna have a 10K day. He's gonna tell us all about it. But Todd, thank you, man. And if there's anything that we can do, please let us know. Here is a question. Once you hire agents that have their NPN, what do you do to get them active and paid ASAP? What was
the question again?
Once you hire an agent and they get their national producer number, what do you do to get them active and paid ASAP?
I try to get them licensed within their first week. And once I get them licensed within their first week, then I have them submit all their contracting information. And then while they're waiting on some of those contracts to come back, have them run through the boot camp. And whenever they wrap up with the boot camp, since prosperity typically takes about 24 to 48 hours to do a turnaround, I'll typically have them get out there and start running some appointments, because with prosperity, I mean, you can write probably 95% of the people we sit down with if they're, final expense and older and stuff. So I try to get them out there like as soon as possible. And then as the other carriers trickle in, then it's just like adding more weapons to their arsenal,
Sweet. Hey, Todd, I messed up. There's like 12 questions in our Q&A section that I didn't see. So I'm going to try to run through it, because some of these are over and over again. Where do you recruit at?
Please answer this question.
Right. Where do you recruit at?
Everywhere. So I have warm market has really been the biggest thing for my growth. I tell all my new agents, be obnoxious on Facebook, because how the algorithm works, unless they're like, really close to you or a family member, they're not going to see all the posts that you have. And maybe only like 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 10 is going to actually get through the algorithm and get to their page. So be obnoxious on Facebook. And then I've just reached out to, because I mean, I've been, I turned 44 in April, so I'm not a kid anymore, so I've got a lot of contacts, people, and anybody that's making 500,000 or less, they're recruitable.
Right.
Because I tell them, like, look, here's what I'm on track to do, at least 500,000 on my own pen, and then I'll probably end up doing about 750 with my agency. So I talk to anybody that's doing less than 500,000, and then I also do go high level now, the integrity marketing thing through Alex Straight runs that up and stuff. So I've got 2 slots with that.
Gotcha. Are you using any job boards or anything, or just using warm market at high level?
Not that, just those 2. I'm just really kind of streamlining it, keeping it simple for now, because I'm doing all the sales and doing all the recruiting. But as I transition my assistant and then also my wife into doing more recruiting stuff, then I'm going to probably take on like Zip and maybe Indeed and stuff like that. So
Gotcha. What does your assistant say when she follows up?
She asks them if they have any questions. She thanks them for getting their family covered and getting their family protected. It's a really short but sweet call or voicemail or text message, just getting another touch on them. And then when we see that the policies get mailed out, she'll call and be like, hey, keep your eyes peeled, check the mailbox within the next couple of days. Looks like your policy's been issued and looks like it's going to get mailed out to you. And then again, a short but sweet thank you letter as well. So we just want to try to get as many touches on them within those first week or 2, just so they kind of remember why they picked it up, the reasoning behind it.
Gotcha. Next question is, if your schedule is not full, do you purchase more leads or just continue to call the same ones?
Both those things, and door knock as well. So I've got Road Warrior, which I think I'm probably going to eventually transition over into Google Maps, just because you're limited on Road Warrior. You can only put 100 in there, and I've got thousands of leads now that I still need to resolve and give to my new agents and stuff. But I'll either hop on the phones, buy new leads if I don't have any leads, but I typically have like a surplus of leads. Like there's rarely a time where I don't have enough leads, right? And then I'll get out there and door knock as well. My assistant will actually say, hey, you're in this area, here's some door knocks for you. And she'll actually plug that in for me too, which helps me to be even more productive.
That's why they're valuable. We keep hitting the same point. What's your approach when you door knock instants versus mailers?
My approach is the same with, it doesn't matter what type of a lead it is. So like I'm a door knocking champion, right? I mean, that's what I did for 17 years, and not to toot my own horn. It's just I've done it and then even before that, I sold books, educational books door to door. So, I mean, I've got like 20 years experience of door knocking. So like I've got some, got some calluses on my knuckles. I've knocked on so many doors. So I show them the lead. I say, hey, you've been super tough to get a hold of. I'm here. I've only got a quick minute because I'm in between appointments. And the key part is, and this is what we used, a couple key parts is you tap your watch saying you've only got a quick minute, showing them that you got to move pretty fast. And then this might sound crazy and it might sound stupid, and you'll be surprised like once you start trying it, but you break eye contact, you wipe your feet and you point and ask for a place to sit down. and you don't look back up until you're looking down at their feet and you see their feet start to move, and then that's when you know you're walking in the door. So it's such a Jedi mind trick, man. It's like have some of your people try it and come back to me and tell me how it works. Now, I'm not saying break eye contact and then look right back up again, because that's not the Jedi mind trick. But you're like a charging bull, right? You're just like looking ahead, pointing and wiping your feet. They don't know what to do because it's much easier to say no when they're looking at you eye to eye. So you'll just look down at their feet and you'll see their feet just shift a little bit, and that's when you're like, boom, I'm in. Let's go.
I don't know why we didn't ask that question earlier, because I totally forgot you knocked doors for like 20 years before coming here. That's money. That was a great question, by the way. Boom, 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 boom. And then last question I'm going to ask you, and I promise I'm going to let you go after this one. How do you
It's all good, man.
calling in different counties, 75 to 100-mile radius? Should you start with one county at a time, or how do you do all that?
So I'm pretty lucky. I'm just a little bit north of Nashville. And as of right now, because obviously things can always change, but I typically run in three counties, and that's all I've really had to run so far. The county I live in, the county that Nashville is located in, then the county right next to the one that I live in. So in between those three counties, there's always plenty of leads for me to be able to get.
Gotcha. Hey guys, if you saw any value of this call, because I know you all did, I can see the chat box. Please say thanks to Todd. And please add him on Facebook and send him a message on there too and say thank you, because that was money, man. Todd, seriously, thank you for literally taking an hour out of your day for sharing that knowledge with us. I'm going to literally get this call up on YouTube, and we're going to post it and share it anywhere. You are a stud. I can't wait to see you literally go on conference next year and get your red jacket and above. Dude,
yeah, man,
you're amazing, man. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
No, I'm just humbled and honored that you guys invited me on this call. So thank you guys. I appreciate everything that you guys do, and I'm glad to give back in any way that I can.
Dude, we got to do a second one sometime soon, because that was mine. So
I'm down for whenever.
All righty, man. Hey, let us know. 10K day. Let's get it. So,
all right, buddy.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Let's see you guys soon.